On January 27, 2026, a man rushed the podium at a Minneapolis town hall and sprayed Representative Ilhan Omar with an unknown substance from a syringe. Hours earlier, 1,000 miles away in Washington, Senator John Fetterman issued a statement that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. "I will never vote to shut our government down," he wrote. "I reject the calls to defund or abolish ICE." 2 Democrats, 2 responses to the same crisis, and between them, a fault line that may define the party's future. The Democratic coalition is fracturing in real time, and the pressure point is a city called Minneapolis. To understand what is happening inside the Democratic Party right now, you have to understand what has happened in Minneapolis over the past 3 weeks. Federal immigration agents launched what the administration calls Operation Metro Surge in December, flooding the city with hundreds of officers from Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection. The stated goal was arresting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. The result has been something closer to urban warfare. On January 7th, ICE agents shot and killed Renee Macklin Good, a woman who partially blocked a street with her SUV. On January 24th, Border Patrol agents shot and killed Alex Pretty, a 37-year-old ICU nurse who worked at the Minneapolis Veterans Healthcare System. Pretty was a United States citizen with no criminal record and a lawful permit to carry a firearm. He was recording the agents with his phone when he was pepper sprayed, pulled into the street, pinned to the ground, and shot 10 times in less than 5 seconds. 2 of the 3 homicides in Minneapolis in 2026 have been committed by federal immigration agents. That statistic comes from the Minneapolis Police Department. Video evidence and eyewitness testimony have contradicted the administration's account of Pretty's death. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called Pretty a domestic terrorist who arrived to inflict maximum damage and kill law enforcement. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called him an assassin. But an internal Customs and Border Protection review obtained by NPR makes no mention of Pretty attacking officers or threatening them with a weapon. Multiple videos show an officer removing Pretty's gun from its holster before the first shot was fired. The killing has created an impossible situation for Democrats. Their base is outraged, their constituents are traumatized, and their party is being asked to fund the very agencies that just killed 2 Americans in a single month. Enter John Fetterman. The Pennsylvania senator has become the most visible Democratic defector on immigration enforcement. While his colleagues demand defunding ICE and abolishing the agency entirely, Fetterman has taken a position that places him closer to the Trump administration than to his own party leadership. "Round up all the criminals," Fetterman said on Fox News. "Deport them. They should not have ever been here, and they definitely have to go." He cited statistics from the Washington Post showing that 67% of people currently being targeted by ICE have criminal charges either pending or on their record. He acknowledged that not everyone being detained has committed crimes, but argued that 2 things can be true at the same time. You can oppose mass deportations of law-abiding undocumented immigrants while supporting the removal of those with criminal records. This is not the John Fetterman who ran for Senate in 2022. That candidate was endorsed by Bernie Sanders. That candidate was described by the New York Times as left-leaning and characterized by observers as a progressive champion. That candidate won his seat with overwhelming support from organizations like the Working Families Party. The Working Families Party has now launched a website called primaryfetterman.com. They are recruiting candidates, organizing volunteers, and collecting donations to defeat the senator they helped elect. The site includes a link for former donors to request refunds from Fetterman's campaign. "We supported John Fetterman in 2022, the website reads. Since then, he has sold us out. It is time to replace him." Nick Gavio, the Working Families Party's Mid-Atlantic Communications Director, was once a Fetterman staffer. Now he is helping lead the effort to remove him from office. The list of Fetterman's breaks with his party has grown long enough to fill a campaign opposition file. He was the first sitting Democrat to meet with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago after the 2024 election. He voted to confirm Attorney General Pam Bondi. He voted to confirm Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, the same official now defending the agents who killed Alex Pretty. He was the only Democratic senator to vote for a Republican stopgap measure during the 2025 government shutdown. He has said he is open to the United States purchasing Greenland, an idea central to Trump's foreign policy agenda. If you want a Democrat that is going to call people Nazis or fascists or all these kinds of things, Fetterman told Fox News, well, I am not going to be that guy. He described his evolution in an interview with Bill Maher, saying his stroke gave him the freedom to leave progressivism and calling the departure very liberating. Asked repeatedly whether he would switch parties, Fetterman has consistently said no. I am not going to become a Republican, he told The View in January. But he has also made clear he intends to chart his own course, regardless of where his party stands. I am just going to be an independent voice in the Democratic Party, he said. I am not going to be afraid of people. The question for Democrats is whether that independent voice is helping the party or hastening its collapse. While Fetterman was rejecting calls to defund ICE, Representative Ilhan Omar was hosting a town hall in Minneapolis, demanding exactly that. The event was held at the Urban League Twin Cities facility. Omar had organized it to address the community's response to the immigration crackdown that had left 2 of their neighbors dead. She was calling for ICE to be abolished and for Secretary Noem to resign, when 55-year-old Anthony James Kazmachak walked down the center aisle of the room. Video captured by C-SPAN shows Kazmachak rushing the podium and spraying an unknown substance from a syringe directly at Omar. He was tackled to the ground by security and attendees. Minneapolis police arrested him on suspicion of third-degree assault. Omar was not injured. She continued speaking for another 25 minutes after Kazmachak was removed from the room. Her first words after the attack have been widely circulated. Here is the reality that people like this ugly man do not understand, she told the cheering audience. We are Minnesota strong, and we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us. Local leaders urged Omar to leave the room and get checked by medical personnel. She refused. That is what they want, she said. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with this. We will continue. The substance in the syringe was later determined to be non-toxic. The FBI has taken over the investigation. Omar blamed President Trump for the attack, pointing to his repeated targeting of her in public statements. Earlier that same day, Trump had mocked her at a rally in Iowa, saying immigrants must show that they love our country and they have to be proud, not like Ilhan Omar. The comment drew loud boos from the crowd at the mention of her name. Trump added that Omar comes from a country that is a disaster and suggested Somalia is not even a country. The day before the attack, Trump said the Justice Department and Congress were looking at Omar, though he did not specify what they were investigating. Omar, who immigrated to the United States as a 12-year-old refugee fleeing Somalia's civil war, has previously spoken of her unwavering love for America. In December, Trump called her garbage during a cabinet meeting. The relationship between the president and the congresswoman has been hostile since she first took office in 2019, when Trump told her and 3 other freshman congresswomen of color to go back to their countries. The attack on Omar came days after another Democratic congressman, Maxwell Frost of Florida, was punched in the face at the Sundance Film Festival by a man who told him, "We are going to deport your kind." The contrast between how Fetterman and Omar are responding to the Minneapolis crisis encapsulates a deeper divide within the Democratic Party. Fetterman wants to work with the administration on immigration enforcement while opposing its worst excesses. Omar wants to abolish the agencies conducting the enforcement entirely. Both claim to represent the authentic voice of the party. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced Sunday that Democrats would filibuster any appropriations bill containing funding for ICE. The January 30th deadline to fund the agency and avoid a government shutdown is approaching. Democrats are demanding that the administration halt its immigration operations in Minneapolis as a condition for keeping the government open. Fetterman has made clear he will not participate in that strategy. I will never vote to shut our government down, especially our Defense Department, he wrote. The position puts him in potential conflict with his entire party leadership. Representative Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania, who called Fetterman Trump's favorite Democrat last year, has indicated he would be open to running against him in the 2028 primary. The Working Families Party says it has collected more than 425 sign-ups from potential candidates interested in challenging Fetterman, along with volunteers willing to work on such a campaign. Fetterman's response to the primary threat has been dismissive. I guarantee whoever they put up, they are going to make me look like the reasonable guy that is going to work with both sides together and find a way for Pennsylvania, he told Fox News. The senator appears to be betting that the progressive wing of his party is out of step with Pennsylvania voters. The state went for Trump by nearly 2 points in November. Fetterman may believe that positioning himself as a moderate willing to work across the aisle is the path to political survival in an increasingly purple state. But his critics argue he has abandoned the very people who elected him. Matt Rohn, chair of the Cumberland County Democratic Party, called for Fetterman's immediate resignation in a guest editorial. As a Democratic County Party leader who worked tirelessly to elect Fetterman in 2022, who stood by him through the hardship of his recovery from stroke and depression, his complete abandonment of the core values of our party has become untenable, Rohn wrote. The Minneapolis crisis has exposed fault lines that existed within the Democratic Party long before Alex Pretty was shot on Nicollet Avenue. The party has never resolved the tension between its progressive base, which views immigration enforcement agencies as fundamentally illegitimate, and its moderate wing, which believes in border security and lawful deportation processes. For years, that tension was manageable because Democrats were not in a position where their votes directly determined whether ICE received funding. Now they are. And the Minneapolis killings have made the abstract question of immigration enforcement painfully concrete. How do you fund an agency that just killed 2 American citizens in your state in less than 3 weeks? That is the question Minnesota's Democratic Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith are being asked. Their answer has been to demand ICE leave the state entirely. How do you refuse to fund basic government operations because of disagreements over immigration policy? That is the question John Fetterman is asking. His answer is that you do not, regardless of what your party demands. Both positions have political logic. Both positions have political risk. And neither position resolves the fundamental question of what Democrats actually believe about immigration enforcement. The attack on Ilhan Omar will likely intensify calls from progressives to defund ICE and confront the Trump administration directly. The working-class voters in Pennsylvania that Fetterman claims to represent may see his willingness to work with Republicans as a sign of pragmatism rather than betrayal. The 2026 midterms and the 2028 election will eventually determine which faction of the party was correct about where American politics is heading. What is clear right now is that the Democratic Party is not unified. It is not even close to unified. A senator from Pennsylvania is calling for the deportation of criminal immigrants, while a representative from Minnesota is calling for the abolition of the agencies conducting deportations. Both wear the same party label. Both claim to speak for democratic values. Both are under attack from forces within and outside their coalition. Fetterman is being primaried by his former allies. Omar is being physically assaulted at her own events. The Minneapolis crisis that brought these tensions to the surface shows no signs of resolving. Tom Homan, the border czar, is now personally overseeing immigration operations in Minneapolis. The agents involved in Alex Pretty's shooting remain on administrative duty but have not been disciplined. Gregory Bavino, the Border Patrol commander who initially characterized Pretty as a violent attacker, has been stripped of his title and is expected to retire, though DHS emphasized he was not relieved of his duties. A GoFundMe for Pretty's family raised more than $1 million within 24 hours of his death. Bruce Springsteen released a protest song titled Streets of Minneapolis, memorializing Pretty and Renee Good. The NBA postponed a game between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Golden State Warriors due to safety concerns. The city remains on edge. The National Guard has been activated to assist overstretched local police. A federal judge granted Minneapolis a temporary restraining order preventing Homeland Security officers from destroying evidence related to Pretty's death. Federal investigators initially refused to allow state officials access to the scene, despite a search warrant. This is the environment in which Democrats are being asked to decide whether to fund ICE. John Fetterman has made his choice. He will fund the government regardless of what his party decides. He will support deporting criminals regardless of what happened in Minneapolis. He will work with the administration regardless of how his former allies view that collaboration. Ilhan Omar has made her choice. She will demand ICE be abolished, regardless of whether that position is politically viable. She will continue holding town halls, regardless of whether she is attacked. She will speak for her community, regardless of how the president targets her. The Democratic Party has not yet made its choice. The January 30th deadline approaches. The shutdown looms. The fault line that runs between a senator from Pennsylvania and a representative from Minnesota grows wider with each passing day. What happens next will depend on which vision of the party prevails: the pragmatist who believes in working across the aisle, or the progressive who believes the aisle itself is the problem. The senator who rejected calls to defund ICE, or the congresswoman who was attacked while demanding exactly that. The answer will not resolve the crisis in Minneapolis. 2 Americans are dead. Their families are grieving. Their community is traumatized. The agents who killed them remain on the job. But the answer will determine what the Democratic Party stands for in 2026 and beyond. And right now, that question has no clear answer. The coalition is fracturing. The center is not holding. And somewhere between a primary challenge and a syringe attack, the party is being forced to decide what it actually believes.